So just a couple of things here, and then we'll open up to questions. Made 2 staff changes this morning. Moved on from Bobby Johnson and from Thomas McGahee. I want to thank those guys for what they've done the last 2 years. This is the hard part of the job. Have a lot of respect for them. Just felt we're going to move in a different direction. Not going to add anything to it. This is a private conversations. But I do respect both of those guys and what they've done the last 2 years, their commitment to the team, their work ethic, but wanted to make a change. So, again, those are private conversations. I'm not going to elaborate on any of it.
Is that it for the staff, or is it, I mean,
we've been well, my expectation is Wink and Kafka will both be back. So those are 2 of the changes we made this morning. But there's still conversations that are going to be had. We've only been here for a short time, but those were 2 of the guys in the morning that I spoke with. So other than that, again, appreciate the ways the guys finished and competed yesterday. And we had an off-season meeting leading into the off-season just a little while ago with the staff and the players and the coaches and all the administrators. So it was a good year-end meeting. They're meeting now with their offense and defense respectively, position coaches. Joe and I will have some meetings here with the rookie class, with the second-year class, and with the UFA class after this conference here. So other than that, open it up to any questions.
What are you looking for in an offensive line coach?
Well, again, that's a good question. It's something that we'll sit down and talk about as a staff, and we'll work through that.
Brian, what went into your thinking with deciding that Mike and Wink will both return?
Yeah, it's my expectation that they're going to come back. I think they're good coaches, so it'd be good to have some continuity and bring them back. I know it's like Wink talks about this as a destination place and things like that. It's good. I appreciate how hard they work, their commitment to the team. So that's my plan.
Have you had conversations with them about that? Because I know you said last week you hadn't had conversations with people.
Yeah, no, not yet. I haven't talked to those guys. I've talked to the guys that I've let go, but that's my expectation, and that's my plan.
would it be your expectation if Mike returns in the same role, as play call and things like that?
Yeah, we'll talk. Those are conversations we'll have here over the next few months of what direction we'll go, and we'll make those decisions as we do a full evaluation.
Joe, I'm sure you saw last week that Saquon said he hopes in his exit meeting you guys shoot him straight. Is a second franchise tag a viable option for him, or is it get a long-term deal done or free agency?
Yeah, again, Saquon and I will talk about that. That's a tool we have at our disposal. It wasn't when we redid his deal before he came to camp. That wasn't taken out of that deal. It wasn't a hey, we'll do this, but no franchise tag. So that's an option we have on the table. We'll have those conversations. I'm not saying we will or we won't. A lot of those conversations will be had, over the next month or so.
Joe, how much does Daniel's timeline for recovery affect what direction you might go with quarterback? Do you have like a cutoff date? Do you say, okay, if he's not at this point by this date, we go draft or, free agency or anything like that?
Yeah, I think, like I said during the bye week, I think ultimately we have to do something, like I said, whether it's the draft or a free agent, just because, Tyrod's contract's up. We have Tommy who's under contract, and then Daniel's injury, and the return to play and the uncertainty there. So, when free agency starts, the draft, whichever avenue we decide to take, we will address the position.
Will you just injury history overall just factor into the future of that position? Do you have to take that in consideration?
Absolutely.
Do you feel like you can build a team around a quarterback who has that injury history now, with 2 neck injuries and now a torn ACL?
Yes. Yeah, it's football and guys get hurt. You can't always predict it. I think guys that have previous injuries, there's some. You got to look at the injuries individually and what they were, how they were caused. But I got a lot of faith in our training staff as well. So again, hopefully he'll be back for week 1. Again, we don't have a crystal ball here, but we'll continue to build the team the way we see best.
So is it out of the question that Tyrod comes back?
No. No, it's not out of the question. Yeah, we'll talk to all the UFAs, like Dave said, and we'll have conversations with them. And again, the representatives. By the time we get to the combine, we'll usually circle up with those guys. So yeah, it's not out of the question. I thought he played well for us.
Joe, what is your overall message to the fans here at the end of the season, and what do you believe the identity of the Giants is?
The message is, believe in the process. Again, we came in here year one, and we were able to go to the playoffs and win a playoff game, and this year didn't go as well as we wanted it to, for various reasons, and we've all got a hand in it, and we've all got to do better going into next year, and we will. That's what this off season's about, and I got a lot of faith in the staff and Dave's, and our process, whether it's down in the weight room, the training staff, our draft process, free agency. I've got a lot of faith in the process, and we'll get this thing turned around.
I know it's more than one thing, of course, but can you put your finger, as you kind of assessed it, what has gone wrong between last year and this year?
No, there's not. I don't think there's one thing. I mean, there's a multitude of things.
Handful of things. I mean, obviously the quarterback situation is.
Yeah, I don't want to go through all 17 games, but again, like we were in. I mean, there's several games that we could have won for various reasons. Again, I'm not going to get into the details of every single game. You guys were there on, hey, if it would have went this way or the ball fell our way or, whatever it was, we could be in a different situation right now. So, again, we've got to have good off season. We've got to be ready to go. We got to start faster. And, again, we got to be consistent week in and week out.
Joe, when it comes to the offensive line, you've spoken the past 2 years, the idea of walking that line between development and having guys who are experienced and ready to go. Going after this year, going forward at that position, is there a solution in terms of young guys aren't coming across, so we need to bring in someone who's going to develop them more, or do you need more experience? How do you handle that position that's really been hit hard here for a while?
When you say the development, are you talking about coaching or?
Yeah, well, coaching, but also bringing in younger players that you're going to now rely on. You've done that the last couple of years, and it seems like their development has not come up as quickly as you've needed them to.
Yeah, and that's a good. Yeah, again, sometimes you get the ready-made product through free agency, or you bring in a young player that you expect to develop and improve, and we've seen that at some positions, and some positions we haven't, and I think that'll be. As Dave looks for a new offensive line coach, I think history of developing players will be something that we'll definitely hit on.
You had mentioned the last time we talked to you, Joe, that Evan Neal needs to get better, and then he never played again. So how do you look at him going into his third year? Can you pencil him in as he's one of our 5 starters, probably right tackle, or do you have to bring in competition at that spot?
Yeah, we'll go through all those conversations over the next couple of weeks. Evan worked his tail off last offseason, came in great shape, had a good start to camp, had the concussion. So again, I expect him to attack this offseason the same way, and again, we'll see how it plays out.
Joe, how do you evaluate Brian's second season? Obviously, you guys had a promising first year, go to the playoffs, win a playoff game. How do you evaluate year 2?
I thought Brian did a good job. Again, if you've been in the league long enough, you've seen some teams quit, and you've seen some players mail it in at the end of the season. And I just think part of the reflection of the job that he did is we went through adversity, and sometimes you have to go through it. We're still in year 2, so things were pretty good year 1. We started fast, had a playoff win, and maybe you didn't see where all the issues were, whether it was in the building, on the team, and the coaching staff, whatever it may have been. So going through it, I think it sucked, but it also opened our eyes to some things that maybe need to change, or we need to get better, or we need to change a process. And I think the biggest thing for Dave's is that he kept the team together, and they continued to fight. They came and they prepared every week. The leaders, did a good job leading through difficult times, and again, I think the results showed yesterday.
What comes to your mind when you say, you need to change process, or things that you need to change?
I mean, it can be a multitude of things. I mean, it's everything we do within the organization is going to be evaluated during this time.
Something that you already came to the conclusion you want
to
change?
We're going to evaluate ourselves. Like, again, whether it was, okay, what do we do when we sign Bobby O? Like, did we nail that? Paris ended up not playing as much. Let's evaluate that process. What happened there? Like, those are type things that we're going to go through and continue to evaluate our process, whether we were drafted guys, the way we signed guys, the way we practiced. We had some, injuries at certain points of the year. We were doing things the right way. The entire process we're going to evaluate.
So are you saying to some degree that maybe some of the minor flaws or whatever may have been present last year you overlook a little bit because you're having success as a team that maybe raised their heads this year? So to
No,
speak?
I'm not necessarily saying that, but I mean, there's a chance that can happen. You know, again, you can look through things through rose-colored glasses sometimes when things are going well, and maybe you put more weight in something that wasn't. But again, we're going to continue to evaluate every part of the process, and you know, again, we'll be better off for it going through this.
It's early, obviously, and the draft is pretty far down the road. But do you feel, you say you're going to need to add to the quarterback room? Do you need to add to that room someone who can potentially start and compete with Daniel for a job?
Well, there's a chance he's not ready week one. So yeah, I mean, you got to sign somebody that can hope plan for the worst, hope for the best. Like you plan for him not being ready. So you're gonna need somebody that can hopefully win you some games early on if he's not ready.
And if he's healthy, you anticipate him to be healthy at some point, start of the season or early in the season. Do you have the same faith of him right now as you did when you signed him to the contract?
Yes.
Joe, along those lines, have you had a chance to scout the quarterbacks expected to go at the top of the draft, and how would you assess this class overall? Are there impact players immediately?
I would say overall it's a good draft. We're kind of moving out of that COVID cycle of the players getting the extra years and whatnot. So overall, I think it's a good draft, and again, like where we're picking, I think it's 6th, 39th, 47, I believe, is a Seattle pick, and then 70th. So four picks in the top 70. You have to fact check me on that. My guy sent me that last night, so I didn't get a chance this morning to double check. But I think that's what it is. So, chance to have 4 players in the top 70. I'm excited about that. Again, it's a way to impact the roster, and it also gives you currency if you want to move around or move up, move back, whatever it may be. It's just those are tools that you can use to continue to execute whatever the plan may be.
Joe, how do you evaluate your second season?
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough season. Again, that's part of the things that we'll do over the next few weeks is assess ourselves. I'm always evaluating myself on a daily basis because there's so many decisions that we make and so many things that go across my desk on a daily basis. And there's always room for improvement. At the end of the day, it starts with me. And, I've got to do a better job, throughout the entire organization. We're a 6-win team. You are what your record says you are. And I've got to do a better job.
Joe, you mentioned Paris. Thinking year 1 to year 2 at receiver. Do you feel, I know it's hindsight, but did you overcompensate at the position because of the injuries that you had the previous year, knowing that Wandell was coming back? You didn't know how quickly he was going to be back in the slot, because it seemed like, as much as we talked about duplication, it almost felt like you were waiting for injuries to sort themselves out, and the way it happened, it seemed like everybody was available, and that kind of cut down on opportunities for Paris and even Shep.
Yeah, that's a good question, Art. And so what it was is, again, coming off an ACL, Wandell coming off an ACL, so we didn't know when he was going to be ready. We thought Paris would be a guy that could play inside, outside, and I wouldn't say overcompensate, but we were trying to add some weapons. You do a deal with Daniel, and you see how it was structured, so you try to expedite the process and give him a chance to succeed. So Paris is a player that'll still play in this league. I think he's got a bright future. Things maybe didn't go as well as he wanted this year, but the guy's a true pro and never once complained or fussed about it. And again, he's got a bright future. I think the kid has talent.
Joe, how do you evaluate? Go ahead.
How do you evaluate the rookie class?
Again, like any rookie class, you're going to have highs and lows. I think the first 3 guys, I think everybody saw their ability. I think Tay Banks is going to be a really good corner in this league. John Michael's going to be a good center, and Hyatt's going to be a good receiver. I think you saw with Jalen the explosive playability. The intangibles for John Michael are off the charts. He's got leadership potential. I'd be surprised if he's not a captain down the road. Again, Tay Banks with rare physical ability, and as he continues to grow and mature, what he did against some of the very good receivers in this league as a rookie, I thought was pretty impressive. So those guys are good. I thought, Eric Gray had a good game last night when he was given opportunities. He probably didn't get as many opportunities this year as he would have liked, but, that's a testament to Saquon and, his availability. And then I thought some of the later round guys, did a good job too. You're excited about Jordan Riley. Again, those guys have a big offseason coming into next year. We'll expect them to be, either those guys are going to start or, depth contributors, going into year 2.
How do you evaluate the Waller be back? And how do you Waller trade, and do you view him as still a piece, important piece going forward?
Yeah, I would do it again. I would do it again with Waller. I mean, you guys saw him this spring. You saw him in the summer. Unfortunately, he had the injury before the Dallas game. Again, he was still a productive part of our offense when available. And again, I would do that again every day of the week.
So he'll be back.
What's that?
Darren will be back.
Yeah, we'll have those conversations with the staff, but the expectation is he'll be back.
Brian, the margins as being as small as they are in the league, when you look at last year's team and this year's team, obviously 6 wins this year, 9 last year, plus the playoff win. How close were these two teams in reality when you look at it?
Yeah, well, every season is a different season. Every team is different. We closed out some games that first year, on the foot line against Jacksonville, or the 2-point conversion with Saquon, being dead to rights. Tennessee missed a field goal. So some of those, and the last play against Green Bay, if you will. Games, a lot of these games come down to the end of the game. They're close games. And we had a few of these this year, whether it was the Buffalo game, it was the Jet game, whether it was the Rams game, that, we didn't close out. So, I'd say there's always a difference. There's some similarities. There's obviously some differences. Got a lot of work to do, but appreciate the way the guys competed. Again, the margin is very small in this league, and that's why there's change every year in terms of playoff teams and not playoff teams. I don't know what it is how many years for 4 different playoff teams? What is it, 15 or whatever it is that I heard, something I heard. So, looking forward to really diving in, deep dive into really every aspect of the organization. Coaching, players, evaluation, staff, and working to get better. It's day one, 12 hours after our last game, so we'll start on this and look forward to that process.
Joe, Brian, whoever wants to answer this one, the young guys who were affected by injuries, what do you lean on in terms of evaluating them, especially if they don't have a lot on tape to really look at?
I'm trying to think. Anybody specific?
I'm thinking, McCaffin, Azudu, guys.
Yeah,
like that.
it'll be big years for those guys. I mean, you're going into year 3, and unfortunately, McKeithen was healthy. He didn't really come to, what is it, like 3rd week of camp, I think, is when he started to practice. So he missed a valuable part of camp. But, unfortunately, Josh has been injured 2 years in a row. So, yeah, I mean, it's a big offseason for those guys. I know they're planning on hanging around and, being around the strength and conditioning staff and, whoever we end up hiring as no line coach. But, yeah, it's a big year. 3rd year, you got to show something.
Joe, does it all begin with the offensive line? In your mind, it's an area that the Giants have struggled at for a number of years in a row.
Yeah, I think that's important. Again, ultimately it's a team game, and I'd like to believe it starts up front on both sides of the ball. So, yeah, that's something that we're going to have to look in, and we've got to be better.
Joe, McKinney views himself as one of the elite safeties in the NFL. He's headed into free agency. Do you see him that way, and what's the interest in retaining him?
Yeah, we're going to talk to all those guys. I'm not going to negotiate against myself and call him elite or make some hyperbolic statement about how great he is. But no, I like Xavier McKinney. He's been a good player since we've gotten here, and he's young. He played 100% of the snaps, checks a lot of the boxes, and he's the guy that we'll obviously talk with. Again, it's just you got so many resources, and how you're going to divvy them up. When you put the puzzle together in the off season. So yeah, he'll be a guy that we'll talk to, obviously.
Would you be open to using the tag on him?
We'll have those conversations again. I haven't just went through the tag. Like, I'm a big. It's not something I want to use on a year in and year out basis, but it's a tool at our disposal. So we'll talk through all that stuff.
You mentioned evaluating everything, and you assume that's a lot of the bad stuff, but the stuff that didn't go well. You also mentioned that you mentioned about signing Bobby O, and so that I would imagine is an example of a signing that you make that hits probably you think 100%. So when you look at that signing, what can you take from that can help you moving forward with other signings?
Yeah, I would say that process, Ashawn, I think, was a good addition. I think Nacho was a good addition. Isaiah Simmons was a good addition. So I think extending Dexter was a good decision. Andrew Thomas was, you go through and you're always evaluating yourself. And so I think our free agent process was good. We brought in guys that they fit our culture. They were good guys. They helped elevate their rooms. And Bobby O's one of those guys. So I think that process, overall went well. And, again, we just got to continue to, we really had one off season where we've had financial flexibility. And, those were some of the guys that we brought in. So, I'm excited to get together with my leadership group and the pro scouting staff and, hopefully have another good off season and bring in guys that can bring, similar value to the team as those guys.
Joe, you mentioned just culture right there. 2 years in, how do you define the culture now, and are you where you want to be?
Yeah, I think last night is a good example. The last 2 weeks, even against the Rams, or even the second half of the Philly game, on Christmas Day, the guys continue to come in, put in the work, compete, and we were in those games. I mean, Philly's a playoff team, the Rams are a playoff team, and the last 3 games of the year against 2 teams that are going to the playoffs, we took them down to the end, and we beat Philadelphia, and the ball goes our way. A couple, we make the field goal versus the Rams or the 2-point play or whatever it may be. Who knows how it turns out, but we took those guys down to the end, and I think that's again a testament to Dabes and his staff and the character of their players in the locker room.
Joe, how do you think you guys can manage the injuries going into next season? I know you're always evaluating this stuff, so
yeah.
Any ideas now, or is that something?
Yeah, absolutely. I know you guys are aware that Craig Fitzgerald left for Florida, so we're in the process of looking for a strength and conditioning coach, and we'll probably have something in place here shortly. So we're going to look at again every aspect of the football operations, and I'll have talks with Ronnie and his staff, and again how we do things year round to. Again, it's football, so there's 31 other teams that are playing football as well. So we know injuries are going to happen, but where we rank, in the injury, category, again, every year you want to get better and get in that top 10, top 5 if you can, because it gives you the best chance to win, not just on the field, but there's a domino effect to your salary cap and replacement costs. And then, if you're consistently in the bottom third, that hurts you in several different areas. So that's part of the process we're going to continue to evaluate.
Joe, when you talk injuries, I think there's like this perception that, it's the strength and conditioning or it's the medical staff, or how does that all tie together when you're analyzing where the issues may be from, an injury perspective for you? Because I know some of it is different, right? I mean, some of it is prevention, but also it's the medical staff's involvement when players do get injured.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of faith in our medical staff, and they're very good at what they do. And we have these conversations all the time. Like Belly missed some time last year, got punched in the eye. You can't prevent that. There's some things that they're freak accidents and you can't prevent. We had 6 ACLs last year. We had 2 this year. 1 was in the preseason, 1 was Daniel. So we improved there. Our soft tissue stuff is improved a year ago. So again, it's if there's a consistent injury that keeps popping up, you're going to dive into that. Some of it is just football, but we have the video of all the injuries. We go back, we analyze it, and we look at our strength and conditioning. Is there something we can do better to help improve whatever that injury is, or is it our return to play? We look at all that, and we're going to continue to look at that. And some of it's the player acquisition process. As we're drafting players or signing players in free agency, are there body tests that we can do with the players? We're looking into some of that, just in terms of, are there certain markers within the athlete's physical makeup, that lead them to be more durable and available on Sunday. So we're going to continue to look under every rock, and again, having a healthy team gives you the best chance to win. So that's the ultimate goal.
You mentioned trying to expedite the process to help Daniel win with playmakers. How much does that remain a priority to upgrade that part of this team?
Yeah, again, offensively, we want to continue to upgrade, and again, I think you saw last night, Wandell had some explosive plays. Hyatt's an explosive play guy. Slayton had some explosive plays. Waller was good for us down the stretch there when he came back. So again, I think there's offensive weapons. Saquon made some plays last night too. So it's just a matter of being consistent. To see that on a week in, week out basis is the goal. And again, we'll continue to evaluate all that stuff. And again, I think we do have some playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. And again, if there's at the right price or the right spot in the draft, there's a chance to upgrade. We'll definitely look at it.
Brian, as far as your staff, last year you let DeAndre Smith leave for a lateral job. Is that like a policy you have, or is that case by case? Like, would you let any of your assistants now who say they want to leave?
Yeah, it's something I talk with those guys about. Joe and I talk about it. Every situation is different.
Dave, speaking of staff, there was talk about Jeff Nixon, the running backs coach. Is he staying or is he leaving?
No, he's going to be the coordinator for Syracuse. Jeff's done a great job. Jeff and I go way back. It's something he's eventually wants to become a college head football coach. So, got a chance to say goodbye to him yesterday. His family, great people. His son is actually in the national championship tonight, so he's headed out there to watch him play.
A couple of quick questions. Has anybody asked to talk to any of your coordinators or assistants?
Have they asked to talk to me?
No,
About
have they
another
actually
job?
talked to the coach? No.
No.
Oh, sorry, I didn't understand.
And the other one is, how much cap space are you going to have?
Well, we don't know the salary cap number yet. So once we get that, we'll have a better idea.
What has ownership's message been to you guys? I don't know if you had like a postseason meeting with John and Steve yet, but just curious what their overall tenor is about the season.
Yeah, we talk to them on a daily
them
basis. Yeah.
every day, pretty much.
Yeah.
Good conversations, private conversations, great ownership. I appreciate them. It's a good dynamic.
Brian, are you bullish? Are you bullish on your team?
What was that?
No, I was just
Oh, okay.
Brian, are you bullish on your team and this franchise going forward? And if so, why?
Yeah, look, I'm confident in what we do, how we do things. Certainly, there's a lot of things that we can improve. That's what the off season is for. Really, in every aspect, like Joe talked about. Look forward to getting started. It's as you all know, it's once one thing ends, it starts up. So then there's Senior Bowl and the East-West game and evaluations, player evaluations, and the combine. So that's all. You enjoy that part of it. Trying to improve your football team, improve the things that you think you can do better, and we can do better collectively to get going for the next part of the season. So, you want to be playing this weekend. That's the ultimate goal, to get yourself into that tournament. And we missed out on it. So look forward to getting back into it and trying to improve in every way possible.